This New Balance SC Elite version 4 has been my favourite marathon shoe of late. We now have version 5, but how does it compare to version 4, and will it be my marathon shoe for when I head to Chicago later in the year? Okay, boys and girls, so we all know, hopefully on this channel by now, that the SC Elite version 4 has been one of my favourite, if not my favourite, marathon shoes of late. Now, the reason that I've liked it so much is because of these reasons. It's inherently stable, and that comes from this really nice wide platform that we have under the foot. This plate is not overly aggressive. There's plenty of room in the toe box. The outsole's very good, and the overall fit and feel works very well for me. And most importantly, this 100% PEBA fuel cell midsole has got that sort of responsive characteristics, but also a very caring characteristic. It really looks after you in the later stages of the marathon when your form really starts to go off. This doesn't become wildly unstable and start actually kicking you between the legs. This has been the perfect shoe to look after me in that marathon distance, the 26.2 miles, which is very, very hard to run. Now, we've made many videos about this shoe, mainly because I've been recommended for anybody who does mildly pronate or is looking for a stable marathon racing shoe, or even half marathon racing shoe. I say because of this foam is so solid in a good way. I say not too soft. It's just got that right blend of responsiveness, bounciness, but not overly soft so you start collapsing. But I've been recommending this shoe for the last year or so because it is a fantastic shoe for the everyday run, in the respect that it does look after you if you have some mild pronations because of the inherent stability of the shoe. And I don't think New Balance designed it to be like that. I don't think they definitely didn't pitch it towards me or everyday runners because of the price tag on it, but it has become a bit of a fan favourite because of its forgiveness that it gives you in the later stages of that marathon. But version 5 is here, and it's had some major changes, which is what we're going to be talking about today. And like I said, we are going to be discussing whether this is going to be a marathon shoe for me in the Chicago Marathon. So usually on this channel, we put these racing shoes through races, and we will do a race in this shoe, by the way. I've got one already lined up. But I wanted actually to do some marathon efforts in the shoe because I'm looking at this shoe as a marathon racing shoe for me. Now, what that's meant is that I took this out on my 20-mile long run, which went very well. And I've also been putting some marathon efforts through the shoe. And I've now got a picture in my mind in terms of this shoe as a marathon shoe for me. And we're going to talk about that at the end of the video. Now, before we do the stats and features, I do want to give the guys at sportshoes.com a bit of a shout out. They were kind enough to send this shoe over to me to review. If you want to get 15% off your running shoes, just head over to FORDYRUNS.com and join as a FORDY affiliated club member. All the details of that are in the description, so check that out. Let's dive into the stats and features. So the New Balance SC Elite version 5 is £260. We've got a 40mm stack in the heel down to 32, and that's changed. That's one of the most important parts. We will talk about that. We've now got an 8mm drop versus 4 on the previous model. Again, we've got the 100% PEBA fuel cell foam. It is a little bit bouncier, it's a little bit lighter. They've also played around with some of the geometries. They basically cut off some of the foam that we didn't need to make it lighter as well. This shoe is weighing 223 grams in my UK 10, a US 10.5. I always go on US sizes in New Balance shoes. The shoe features this Energy Arc carbon fibre plate, which has been tweaked to make it 38% more stiffer in the forefoot. We've got a new rubber compound on the outside. I'll show you that. It's only about 1mm thick, I think, providing decent traction. I'll show you that. The next bases of the shoe has been cut down. That means it's been narrowed, and again, I'll show you that. And the upper's a similar sort of texture to the previous model, but it definitely has a more racier feel. And overall, I would say the shoe feels a little bit more racy. The other good thing to know is that this shoe actually comes in a wide fit, and I would say to anybody who's looking for or has a wide foot, this could be a good marathon shoe for you. Should we take a closer look? Here's our lighter fuel cell PEBA foam. There's our Energy Arc carbon plate. There's the upper. There's this new rubber compound on the outsole. We've also got a thicker piece in the heel. Comfort on the shoe's not been reduced. The tongue is gusseted. Laces are a bit questionable, and there's the profile of it, which I think looks again a lot more racier than the previous model. Right, so I really want to get into that long run in terms of the feedback on this shoe. The goal pace work, it is what it is. To be honest with you, I could have been wearing this, I could have been wearing my Meta Speeds, I could have been wearing the Brooks, I could have been wearing anything, right? They all kind of, sounds bad, but they all kind of feel the same, right? But on the long run, I think, again, as I said in the Vomero video we made, you really find out a lot about the shoe. And that's why I wanted to take it on this 21 or actually 3 hour long run that I did, because I wanted to find out if this shoe has got what I need to put it into the marathon. So I'll put the splits up. I was working, I would say 7 out of 10 in terms of effort. It was a up and down route. It's a 6-mile loop with elevation. And the key for me was to pick it up on the flats and to try and maintain some of that decent pace, not out and out goal pace, but decent pace up the hard hills that are on this route that we do. Now, as you'd expect, this foam comes more alive the more you lean on it. If you look right at the bottom of the splits that I'll put up on the screen, you'll see that I knocked in a basically 7-minute mile, and the shoe was, and that was at mile 20, and the shoe was just brilliant. It was still very good, actually. I've got to give it a compliment at that goal pace of around 8-minute miles, so that's about 5-minute kilometres for anybody in kilometres. The shoe was great. I would say, though, I did notice the reduction in the foam underfoot. Not in a bad way. It just felt a lot more racy. I felt a lot more like the other super shoes that I've got now, like the Metaspeed and, like I said, the Brooks and even the Hoka Rocket X3. It felt a little bit more like that because of the 8mm drop. The foam felt very similar to version 4 in terms of the heel and things like that, but the shoe overall does feel lighter. It does feel a little bit more energetic, and it does feel a little bit more racy. They have done well in terms of turning it into a more racy feeling shoe. But that's not necessarily a good thing for anybody who liked version 4. But the shoe was great in terms of stability for me. I had no problems in terms of stability with this foam, and I really like the FuelCell Peeper foam. It just works for me. I've had no rubbing or anything with this shoe since I've had them out of the box. Even on that longer run where you'd expect it to sort of show up, I've had no issues in terms of rubbing or fit or anything like that. And like I said in the stats and features, it is an important point. This does come in a wide option, so that's well worth checking out if you are somebody who's got a wide foot. The carbon plate doesn't feel as aggressive as some of its competitors, and while they have said that they've made it more stiffer, 38% more stiffer in the forefoot, I can't say I really noticed it. But again, people, I'm not an elite runner, yeah, so I'm not the person who's going to notice that. But overall, the ride of the shoe has just been great. It has really been surprising, actually. I thought this shoe was going to be a little bit of more of a miss than it has been. I really enjoyed, particularly on that long run, being in the shoe. And I was very surprised how stable it is, despite, and look, if you look at the sort of width or the profiles of the shoe, can you see where they've lost some of it? Yeah. And I think that's why this shoe was so good and so inherently stable. They have lost some of that stability in the heel. Now, that is a problem, I think, at mile 22 and onwards in the marathon for me. But it was interesting, I say, I really thought that this would be more unstable for me than it was. And as you saw in the splits, I was through different paces. I was at goal pace, I was a little bit more towards easy pace. I was then kicking on. I was working through the paces, and the shoe wasn't unstable. And that really did surprise me, because I was worried because of the sort of skinniness now in this heel, which is more like the Puma Deviate Nitro Elite 3 than anything else. But yeah, fair play to the shoe. It was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. Let's move on to the likes and dislikes. I like the upper. I like the outsole. I still like Energy Arc. I like the comfort in the heel. I like the midsole. I actually don't mind the way it looks either. I like the performance I've had out of it since I've been running in it. And I like the fact that it surprised me. I was truly expecting this to be like, oh God, they've ruined it. But actually, they haven't. Well, maybe not for some people, and we'll come on to that. Dislikes, £260. New Balance pricing is just totally wrong. I understand because of the tariffs and all this sort of stuff, but New Balance pricing for their racing day or race day shoes is just, I can't even get into it. The trainer, the pacer, and everything like that. And that's, you know, I know you can get the discount being a club member at FORDY runs over at sportshoes.com, but still, £260 is absolutely the wrong price for this shoe. Oh, another like, sorry, I like the fact that they've cut the weight down on this shoe. This was 257 grams, 223. So that was good. So going back to the dislikes, I don't particularly care much for the lacing. I've had real problems in all the runs that I've done in terms of getting the sort of tightness and fit right with regards to lockdown. And actually using just the long run as an example, I had to retie them 3 times to get the sort of lockdown right on the shoe. But there's only really 2 dislikes that I've got on the shoe, and obviously one of the most important ones is the price, so that is an issue. But there are other 2 things we need to discuss about this shoe. Firstly, I think this has changed so much that the appeal of the version 4 that it had for people like myself, I think that's now gone. This was a friendly option for the everyday runner. I appreciate still how expensive it was, but if you're doing a marathon and you don't mind paying up for it, you was getting a very good, stable, cruising shoe that would get you through the marathon very, very comfortably. And they've made this lighter, more aggressive for faster people, although they'll probably still try and do that with this. It just didn't work. But they've really gone back to that sort of really trying to dial in those speedier people, which is fine. That's, you know, what these shoes are for. And I think with this, it was purely by luck that it ended up being such a hit for people like myself. But they've really gone back to that more racier feel that, you know, what the other shoes are designed for, those elite runners and all that kind of thing. So I'm not sure that this is going to appeal to as many people as version 4. And the other thing really is that despite it being a very good shoe, it kind of blends into all the others, you know. There's nothing really here that makes it stand out. If I talk to you about the Edge from ASICS, the shoe that I'm seriously considering taking into Chicago, you know, you've got the you've got the Ray foam in, you've got the Leap foam in there, you know, that really bouncy, aggressive foam that's in there. You know, it's got something about it. You talk about some of the other shoes, the Fast R3 from Puma, it's just mentally quick. It's just super, super light. You've got the Ray from ASICS, super, super light. You know, they're all trying to push on with different things. And I think this version, despite it being very good, you know, the cut weight, it feels great. I really like it, but it just doesn't necessarily stand out versus the crowd. And version 4 did, maybe for not the reason that New Balance wanted it to, but it stood out because everyday runners, normal people, people who do, you know, pronate at the end of the marathon, do need a shoe that is inherently stable in the marathon distance. Well, that's something that made the shoe stand out. But here, this sort of blends into shoes like this and other sort of super shoes that are currently out there. And I think that's the problem. It's hard to justify £260 period, but it's even harder to justify £260 if you're not getting something like a little bit of secret sauce, something that's a cut above it, whether it's the fact that you're getting some stability and a safety net when you're out there in the marathon. This goes up against now other shoes like the ASICS shoes, which are cheaper and got the new foams in them and things like that. And that's where I think this is going to come, well, into a problem. So there we go, people. That's my thoughts on the SC Elite version 5. I like it. I'm not sure whether this is going to be the marathon shoe for me for Chicago. I still feel that the Edge from ASICS is more likely to give me what I need. And as I say, that's nothing negative on this. As I said, this is just changed in such a way, in a good way, and say it's lighter, it's faster feeling and all that kind of stuff, but it's gone a little bit too far for me. Now, you might say, well, why are you using the Edge, which is also too far? But there's something just in that Edge where it's maybe a little bit thicker in the heel. You've got the the dual foam setup. It just feels at the moment like it's working better for me than this. I say, this is not to put any negative spin on this shoe because it's been performing very well. And again, I go back to that 21-mile, 3-hour run in the shoe. It was brilliant, but you can't justify £260 on a shoe that's not really standing out versus the competition. So there we go, that's my thoughts on this. Personally, I think you go out and buy version 4 if you're like me, cheap at sportshoes.com, for example. Go and buy version 4 while you still can. I say, particularly if you're somebody who requires a shoe that's inherently stable, you're somebody who mildly pronates or something like that, then this is a shoe definitely to go and pick up at sportshoes.com. And again, I'll go back to that point now because it is a very valid one. If you do have a wide foot and you're after a racing shoe, then this may be something to consider. So props to New Balance for coming out with a wide fit in the shoe. I think that's definitely a positive of the shoe. So again, if you've got a wide foot, then it might be worth considering the SC Elite version 5 because it is a very good shoe. Okay, guys, so there we go. Hopefully I've added some value today. If you feel like I have, make sure you hit that subscribe button for me. I would really appreciate it. If you're free on a Monday, join me at 8 o'clock. We do a live stream every Monday, and then we have our podcast that goes out on a Friday, so make sure you check that out as well. But that's it from me, team. I'll catch you later.